as an individual who's been in the darkest place, you got to imagine doing 20 years of jail as a bank robber, growing up in Australia's most notorious streets, the amount of, you're just a criminal scum, you're X, Y, and Z, despite it's been 22 years since I've been in trouble.
Yeah.
Spending over the past 2 decades behind bars as a bank robber, Jeff's story is not just about survival, it's about transformation. Today, he's a global mindset, leadership and wellbeing coach, a nutritionist and mental health expert. He's seen the darkest side of life and turned his past into a mission to build better humans, empower communities and inspire millions. Jeff is proof that no matter where you come from, no matter what you've been through, change is possible. Come on this 3-part series as we flip the script in transforming the game.
Speaking of your car analogy, I often think of, and I'll say to people about your body. Imagine if you could only buy one car in your life and you had to use that to get to your grave. Like you would look after your car very differently to the mindset today. And obviously you're very fit, you look after yourself. You've got a bachelor in nutrition. Love that. And I make exercise my non-negotiable out of everything, my craziness. I was at the gym before this and it's quite early here for me as well. And it's my non-negotiable every day, every morning. I have to. Now, my weapon of choice is gym, swim, and I call it my potions where I've got my formulas, my greens and things like that. So what's your routine for people and how important is exercise, do you think, for generally everyone?
Yeah, I'd probably say this, like make sure we're all built differently. So what I'd say is not what you'd like to do, but no, sometimes too, you got to do what you don't want to do because it is for the best interest of the environment. The environment is yourself. And sometimes we don't want to gym, but posturally, physically, hip-wise, when I get older, if you look up hip problems with older people, a lot of them die after hip operations. Do you want to die after a hip operation? No, I don't. So how can I look after my hip? How many people would do that? Yeah, I always talk about the big three on these, real lately. A lot of people don't even realize with cancer, heart disease and diabetes, what foods shouldn't I eat? And they go, oh, fast foods? What else? And they're like, oh, I'm not sure. I'm not really sure. And how much of? And understanding what actually causes heart disease, diabetes and cancer. You ever done the research on it? And I ask people that. And I call it a layered approach where you do 10 steps to the one thing. And I say, have you ever looked up 10 things around cancer? And then when you get to that level, go back and revisit and add another 10 things. Why? They're all fire exits. It means that you're staying away from cancer or, trying to stay away as far as you can from cancer. And people just don't do that. So I'd say to people, go out and find what you don't want. And what don't I do? Like even conversations, how do I communicate effectively and set boundaries in relationships so I'm not damaged? Because once you're damaged, there's spot fires. I don't feel good enough. I'm not worthy. I'm not pretty enough. I knew what, Jeff or Christina said to me in school was true now because so-and-so's validated that. But if you build yourself well, there's nothing no one can do. Yeah, and that's the biggest thing. I do a Power 100 every single morning. And that Power 100 has a whole heap of stuff. Gratitude, journaling, affirmations. Yeah, I use the Inner Tune app for affirmations. It could be calm, it could be meditation where you're down by the ocean, you're journaling, the sun's on you, you got a dog beside your side, you meet your best friend or you walk down with your partner, whatever it is, human connection, you're disconnecting from everything else, you turn your phone on airplane mode. And each time I do one thing, turn my phone on airplane mode to be present with the presence of my company to my person. It's the greatest present I can give my partner. Now that, what else did I give in that? So I gave her my time, I gave her my respect, I gave her what she wanted, me. And I'll count those things. They're a Power 100 where, if I go down and I'm with you and we catch up for the first time and I'm on my phone scrolling and dead scrolling and I'm like, oh, what did you say? Hey, look at the sun. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I just want to see this post from Joe Boggs. Have you seen the cat? Yeah, it's funny and yeah, it made you laugh. But is it serving? You told me that you wanted to travel to Disneyland with your kids and you wanted to retire early so you could actually see your kids grow up, but you're scrolling every day, dead scrolling, and you had the chance and opportunity with somebody like yourself, Christina, or me, who's been successful to give you the solutions to your problems, and what did you do with it? You disrespected it. So find your power 100. I do a power 100, and I'll count those 100 things, whether it's the hygiene, as you said, physically fit. During my workouts, I'm not just doing a workout. I'm then doing core in between my sets. I do another set. I come out and skip. So I'm doing my cardio. I do another set, and now I'm stretching. So I'm doing different elements just in the workout. Whilst I'm doing that, I'm listening to a podcast of value that could add value to myself. I put a book out next to the workout. And when I hear something, Joe Dispenza's telling me about how to deal with my emotions, or Huberman's talking about the brain, I'm then going, pause in between the set,
Saying, right. Yep.
Something out. And even if you don't have that book, grab your notes, open the notes up, and when you're listening, do your set and go, bang, the human brain is X, Y, or Z. And it creates an exit that we spoke about that allows you to burn the old exit that never served you. And do your power 100 every morning before 9 a.m. Now, here's the thing. If you're a late riser and you still are doing business at 4 a.m, congrats to you and respect to you. There's no right or wrong way. Oh, you should get up early. You get up and just grind the way you want to. But if you get up at 12 before, let's say I get up at 5 before 9, so 4 hours, you get up at 12 before 4 p.m, you do a power 100, then that's great. And I just design it your way. So it might be stretching, it might be affirmations, it might be just looking in your partner's eyes and telling them you love them, and actually looking at them and say, I just wanted you to know something beautiful, right? Every single morning, you grab them, you grab their shoulders, give them a cuddle. There's one. You're connecting. That's the first one. Now I'm cuddling you, giving a hug, 20 seconds to allow that little exchange of feeling serotonin to actually connect, right? And that connection now, that's 3. And now I'm telling you verbally, I just wanted you to know I love you, or you mean the world to me. But these things you can count through the morning. Maybe it's choosing, before you used to choose chocolate in the morning, you've swapped it for a banana. There's 5. So understanding the benefits of the banana, potassium, sodium, and calcium at that exchange or pump within a cell, and that's 6. And once you understand this whole conversation,
just stacking the 1% wins rather than going for just that big success. You're actually stacking the tiny little micro milestones in your life and then when people do that, you're motivating, and then you're motivating, and then you're dopamine, and then all of a sudden you've hit your big success, but you haven't gotten, because it's like this, right? But what you're doing, and I mean, that's a beautiful way to put it too. And it's the same in business. If you're doing a big transformation in your business, you're trying to motivate your teams. I don't get people to set schedules that are up here. This is our goal. This is our why. But then let's get to here, let's get to here, let's get to here. And you get them by
KPIs, for yourself in life. And I'm going to, as a business, when we deal with businesses, straight away, we look at the whole framework of their business. And it's like, as you said, the car, what about the wheels? But the biggest thing, what we focus on is the Lamborghini and what a beautiful car. Can you afford it? No, I can't. Now I feel like shit because I just didn't, you've made me feel that I'm not worthy, or I don't have enough money, or whatever it is. But what if we just went, I'm going to buy one of the bolts, and one of the bolts, how much is that bolt? $3, $2, $1, right? You take away all the nuts and bolts of that Lamborghini and it falls apart. And what we don't focus on is the little micro steps that would put us in the position, financial freedom position, because of our passion and because of our love for an industry, whether it was affiliate marketing, whether it was business, small or large, that puts you in a great position, even small. I say to people, we work with coaching clients, instead of thinking, I want to build a X business, and I'll go, all right, so would you like to franchise that? Could you possibly franchise it? Could you create a university through Kajabi or something of that nature that allows you to then be able to be in a position where you could teach people, and you've got 1,000 people subscribed at $49.99 a month? What would that do for your life? That's just one stream. And now you got digital products, how to build your business well, how to deal with stress, because that's it. That'll allow that person to function at their highest level. And once you do that, now these nuts and bolt moments where you've done this micro effort that you thought was pointless, I stack them up, and you do nothing, Christina, over the next year. I get 365 micro moments. But if I do a Power 100 daily times 365, do the maths of how many steps ahead of you I am. And that doesn't mean I'm better than you. It would just mean I was more committed to myself. And if you break them down to say 0.1, look into the eyes of my partner, in connection, that means I'm connecting with you on this podcast. When I'm in this business meeting, when I'm in this relationship, when I'm playing for this sporting team or whatever, we go out onto the field of life. And once you do that, people always say, Moores, you're so lucky in life. Everything falls into your lap. It didn't. People trusted who I was. And that meant that I showed them through my actions of these micro actions that I can be that person they can trust in that situation. And I'm going to go to this person for coaching, for business, for life. And once they come, my biggest thing going back to that, surrender. Not to know stuff. I'm sure you don't know stuff. I don't know stuff. But we don't sit there and say, hey, JT, tell somebody else, brother. I know how to do business. We've had that yesterday. He literally told us, we do what Jeff does. And they haven't even seen me do something. And I said, all right, tell me the invisible backpack that you carry and what that means. And they're like, oh, what's that mean? I said, so then we'll framework your GPS to life. So tell me your GPS to life. What are the pillars of life? And they're like, I'm not sure. And I'm like, you don't do what we do. But what you're telling us is that you fearful for me coming in to actually add more value to your business. And they wanted to argue the point, but I do what you do. And I said, well, I just showed you that you didn't. And so where's and I do it nicely. I do it nicer than that.
Yes. But people don't like. So there's the people who are willing to actually learn and be coached, and then there's the people that are simply don't want to be wrong. They haven't got their fire exits yet because they just don't want, and they're stubborn. And and I always say you can lead a horse to water, you can't make them drink. So you can have people could have them at best intention, but you can't physically. Well, you can, but shove the water down their throat, and it's not worth your time anyway. But
imagine too, like what you said, and we always say that you lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink, right? But why do athletes who are great athletes have a coach? Well, like, I don't need you, coach. I can run fast. I can play football. I can shoot a netball, whatever it is. I can play any sport. I don't need this coach. I can guarantee when what we think we are doing in a space and environment, when I sit back and I just watch, everyone's an armchair critic. Do you know why? Because you've got some form of coaching within yourself. You see something on a sporting field, you pass it to that person over there. They're free. Why didn't you see that? Because they had their back to them. But even if you understand sport, when you receive a pass, if I can see both people like this, so I'm playing in a position where I could see both. But if I turn my back to that person and I receive the ball, he was free over, or she was free over there. But because I didn't position my stance right, I didn't see what you saw through the TV. And then people say, I don't need a coach. And I'm like, well, I could teach you one thing. I've seen how you play. When you receive the ball, my advice is to make sure that you've got two people within your vision, or as many people in your vision, rather than turning off and blocking off that potential. And that way I receive and I let go, and we score the winning goal that wins us the World Cup soccer or something of that nature. You tell me what that would be worth to Ronaldo or Messi. And when you understand that conversation, just surrender. We're not, as long as you don't surrender.
You got to lose, right?
And everything to gain. And it's just, yesterday we had that conversation. I said, here, how's this? We'll do a due diligence workshop. We'll come into that space. But what it was, the person felt threatened because they don't want to be in a position, I could probably be doing more. It's not that. We should always be upskilling ourselves to be the highest version of ourselves. And that means that you don't know everything. Well, how did you get to that spot that you're currently in? So I asked that question. And then that's, you never upskilled yourself? Or this is another opportunity. I'm not coming to take your job. Let me tell you, I'm coming in to plug in some value. That's it. And then the idea is I'm training you and coaching you up to add more to what you're great at already. So we started going down that pathway. And then they were a little bit more open. Oh, yeah, I'm great, And it's an ego thing. Our ego crushes, the potential for us to be all that we can be. Our pride. We can't even do it at a family barbecue. Remember that time I scored 90-meter try? Oh, well, what about that time when I scored 100-meter try?
Yeah, why not?
Just let it go. Let the person tell the story. And if the father might come out and say, that was great, but Jeff scored 100-meter try. Do you remember that one? And let other people talk for the actions of who you are by your power 100 or what you're doing for your life. And that's how I've always operated. I had this great name in the criminal world, and I mean that respectfully to the community today. But it was because of how I operated. Innovator. I was making a lot of money. I was creating a lot of opportunities, and people wanted to network at that point in time. And what all I've done is destructive into constructive. Now I've taken that into business, and people want to connect because you're genuine, you're authentic, you're, as you said, ethical in the space, and you're creating outcomes. Who doesn't want to be around that? But then if I come to you and you say, hey, Jeff, I could teach you stuff, despite us being a high performance place that can pass on something that makes everything seamless and stressless and build better humans, hey, Christina, don't tell me. I'll tell you how to do it. What a knucklehead. Like, I'd be like, let the guard down. I've watched some of your podcasts, the rocking chair moment as an example. How could I plug that in my story to create value to another human being? What a beautiful thing Christina's just given me. But until you do that, you're always going to block off, and you'll see them in conferences.
They start to close up, right? And it's like, the shoulders come up, and it's the body language, and they're blinking more because they're not paying attention.
Get on phones and they're scrolling. I can see them. I'll pause and I'll say, look, I want to have a conversation. Does everyone want to be respected in life? And and I mean it nicely, males to females. I'm a male, the female scrolling. And I say, should we respect women in society? Can I ask everybody really quickly? And it's off topic, and they're like, where did this come from? And I start chatting this convo, and they're like, yeah, we should respect women, absolutely. Now, should we respect humans? Yes. Should we respect women? Yes. Children, elders? Yes. Can I ask why in a conference, when you've come here to learn, that you'd be scrolling and then demand respect from a male? I said, why is it different? Like, why? Can anybody tell me this? And I'll see the people that are scrolling go like this. They'll pause like a deer in headlights, and I go, he's talking about me. And I'm not directly saying, hey, you in the red shirt, but I'm making sure, because in the end, everyone, right, if something happens in a shopping center, I guarantee everyone will want me to be in that shopping center. I promise you that I'd be the person they'd want there. And I mean that nicely. But we get there to a point where now someone's doing something really bad and we want somebody who's going to step up. Guarantee I'd step up. But what we don't do is have that conversation in these spaces, and we enable that behavior and say it's okay to scroll. I see it at national suicide prevention conferences from tables that I'm not going to mention the organizations that are there to represent the highest level of suicide prevention. And I walk back in from the toilet and they're scrolling Facebook, and I'm like, what the actual... So I'll walk up and put my hand on their shoulder and say...
Congruency, right?
Yeah, I say, do you know that my brother and sister are no longer here? And there was 13 emails that were sent to your organization that never got responded to. And the behavior of what you're doing currently now could change or save somebody's life, or let somebody's life slip by. I want to ask you, here to pay your bills or are you here to actually earn? I'll just do it, because I don't want that person to function at that level. And more importantly, I don't want somebody's life to be lost. And they don't have to actually check out on this planet to be lost. Some people are dead at, as I said many a time, dead at 20 and buried at 80. Oh yeah, like 60 years of just walking around like a numb human being, because we just didn't sit and drop our pride or ego and listen and learn and earn something that could give us the life we want. And you've got to call it out. And when I say call it out, I'll do it nicer than I did do it. That's the shortened version. Yep. But let's call it out and say, hey, would you like to be respected? Well, that's a two-way street, I'm sure. Would you agree? And
I love that. I love that you're unapologetic. I'm definitely all for, and the professionalism of calling it out. Often I've been called into a situation where they're like, can you deal with this? And I mean, I feel the what would you call it, the levels rising when you've got to deal with things like that. But I was in a big corporate meeting once and got quite disrespected by a gentleman in it. And back in the day, let's say 20 years ago, I would have lost my confidence. I would have sunk back and everything. And today I stood up and I kept it professional. That's right, kept it to the facts, got off that meeting. And I actually called the gentleman up and I said, here are the facts. Here's this, did this. I don't appreciate how you just approach that you completely just tried to railroad me. And I said, and then he quickly was backtrack. Oh, that wasn't the intent and this and that. I'm like, whatever, that was true. But the fact I called it out, he's like, okay, I understand. That's great. And then the relationship shifted. And I got a lot more respect, and it was more or less about me. I didn't give a shit about him, but it was more about, I guarantee you this guy was, because I was quite new into this organization. And so I think he was threatened because he didn't have a say in me coming in. And so, and I'm like, you don't get to treat people like that, because there'll be someone who might not have the self-awareness that actually I haven't done anything wrong and I'm doing quite a good job. So you don't get to bring me down just to make sure that the attention's not on you anymore for your lack of whatever.
Absolutely.
And so I do think empowering people to find their voice is a beautiful thing that you can do. And you doing it yourself hopefully brings people self-awareness to their actions, but then also in your coaching, teaching people and empowering people to find their voice is thank you. Yes.
And it's just like, that's leadership at its highest level, but most people won't. Humans don't want conflict, but you got to understand that if you build yourself well, that is not conflict. So if that happens in that situation that you spoke about, I'm able to have that conversation. And I've had it like with ex-partners. I was sitting at a dinner table and they were talking about, imagine, and I won't mention the nationality of them just to clear up, make sure they understand it wasn't about that. They'll know who it was about. But imagine Aboriginal people in this race marrying together. And I was like, wow. I was sitting there and I said, you know what? Would you like me to respect your daughter and treat your daughter well? Yeah. I said, do you feel that I do that? Yes. I said, so why would you disrespect me in saying that I'm our people of that nature? The thing is, if people understood, if you actually went and sat with an Aboriginal community, I took you and you go, wow, what beautiful people. But I can tell you this, if I say, Christina, you're scum or you're drunk or you're this, and I'm going to let me come in your house and steal your property, or what scumbags, whoever it is, right? Anybody that's the vision of that person, right? And when you do that for so long, of course someone's going to be angry or internally, right? So as soon as you show me that you're that person, I'm going to say, I've got a boundary, stuff you, and if I poke you and poke you and poke you and poke you, by the end of the day, you're going to want to hit me. Do that continuously for years upon years. Now, as soon as you show me, I'll just say, stuff you. I'm not interested in this type of person. And
yes,
we understand that conversation. At that table, I was able to have a really good conversation. Said, look, you expect me to treat your daughter with respect? Yeah. Do you feel that I do that? Yeah. Well, then I'm a good man. Why does it have to be an Aboriginal thing? And I had that conversation with the mother. And at the end of it, I said, you know what? Respectfully, I love your daughter and, I've got time for you both. But the conversation you had has made me feel really uncomfortable and I just don't feel hungry at the moment. I'm going to remove myself from this space. And I want you to really have a think about what you said, because you got somebody who's protecting your daughter, respecting your daughter, loving your daughter, and here's how you're treating that person. I just want you to have a think about that and maybe have a think about that when I'm not present. And I know that when I removed myself, and the father had a conversation with the mother. Now, that's just, that's me being able to have that conversation respectfully rather than say, what do you say about Aboriginal people or your type of people? And go back at them. Imagine pointing the finger back at their race and your race does X, Y, and Z. And that's what we do as human beings, rather than say, how can I be an effective communicator, educator, leader within my own life, and here's how I'm going to do it when it comes up. And once you've built that strength within yourself, whether it's business life, financially, spiritually, and relationship, could be your family, your friends, your teammates, your workmates, that's unacceptable behavior in this environment. Boy, how do we seek to understand that? And instead of saying that to that person, they're not built of that nature. So they're like, whatever. And then tomorrow they run the same prank, because they're built of a nature where that was their nature. If you put a snake in a room, it wants to bite people. Understand how we can shift the snake's behavior by getting to understand that we're actually your friend, and we'll bring you the food that you want every day, and watch the snake's behavior. It won't want to bite you anymore, because it says, this is the person that brings me food that allows me to survive. and they've created a nice room that's got heat in it. I actually like being where I'm at. And, let it move around and everyone's happy. Now, once you understand that, you can go and build yourself in environments really well, and you can start to remove yourself, burn those fire exits of those that don't serve you, and let that burn the boats, burn the building, burn it all, and just never look back. Lessons became blessings from it. Your future is in your past, which means you took the strength even of abuse, and people go, are you joking, Morgs? But you take the strength of your abuse and you plug it in as red flags of the future for women that have been abused before. Now we've got strategies, tools, tips to make sure that women feel safe, stable, and secure in an environment. Was that not a strength? Yes, it was. So now your perspective and lens on that whole environment, situation, thing that happened to you becomes happening for you, but also becomes lessons that become blessings with other people's lives. And that's a powerful perspective shift and I call it perception correction, that allows not only you but other people to live a better quality of life, and a good one at that.
I love that. So it's the perception redirection, if you like. I agree. If you could get more people, which you seem to be doing very, very well, on taking their trauma, I used to say back when I was younger too, when people would talk about certain situations, I can relate to so many more different people now. And, your alerts
Absolutely.
are on, and you can see if danger is coming from a lot further than anyone else. And you don't use it to attack, but you can use it to be proactive, and you can use it to help someone before they even realize they're so far down the track, maybe where you went, which was so far down the track. I remember hearing one of your interviews where I knew I was under surveillance, and I was so deep. I was just so deep and so loyal to my family, and which is your friends, the gang, your chosen family. I'm so loyal to them. And you knew, you had every instinct inside your body saying you are fucked.
Literally.
Like you're about to, but isn't that, I do
You
believe,
still robbed the bank. Like,
you
I
still robbed
knew.
it. But it was your turning point. Like if I'm correct there, where it was your turn.
Absolutely.
So that was everything in your body of your universe for me was saying to you, you have to get caught, you have to hit bottom, you have to be sitting in that cell to go.
Absolutely.
You had used to it intentional destruction, where you finally got your mindset going. Which I wanted to quickly touch on that. I had a turning point when I was 19. I read Louise J. Hay, You Can Heal Your Life. Do you know, if you have a moment, do you know that?
Now that you've said it, You Can Heal Your Life, I'm going to put that in my brain and jump off and buy it on Audible.
It's an old school book. So I'm talking a long time ago, but this book was my turning point. So I got it, and it's all about power of the mind. She healed herself from cancer. It was things like that. Did you have that one thing that you could pinpoint that you go, I go back and go, that book changed my mind. I read it back to front. I read it twice. And then my mind became my superpower.
Yeah, as you said, it was the sum of all things that shifted and changed me. But when I was in custody, I went to the trial for that bank robbery down in Melbourne, 2003. I come back from the jail, from my court, and I'm sitting in that truck. I break down. I go into segregation at that time, and you went in there for 3 months. So for 3 months, I saw nothing but 4 walls. And I remember walking out, and this bloke said, do you want to do a university degree here? And I was like, oh, what, here in jail? All right, what's available? I'm looking through that list. Now, not long after that, he said to me, I've got this book for you, and I've been able to bring it in. And it was 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Stephen Covey. And I was like,
yeah, I've got it behind me.
Yeah, oh, wow. And I go, all right, give me a read. And I read anything and everything I could in there, and that helped. That was one of my sum of all things. Yeah, and I read that book, and I think, I'd read a lot of books over time. I read, as a young kid, Arnie's Bible, Encyclopedia of Bodybuilding. That was unbelievable as a human being, those sorts of things. But I think at that point in time, when I look at the sum of all things, it started to shift and change me. And in those 3 months, I asked more questions in 3 months than I ever asked in my whole life. And I sat there in that silence, which was violence for me, but a lot of people up here. And I started to say, is this the life you want? What are you doing it for? You're making money, so could you do something else but make the same money? Is it for, and I mean this respectfully to women, back then you had money, you had power, and women would come, and you get into these hotel rooms, and drugs would be there, and you got what you wanted. I mean that nicely, right? That's just the way of that world. The reality though was, all right, so do you want a woman or do you want and when I say woman that could nurture, be a great mother or great partner or was a great human being? Or do you want somebody that looks good, but it's an empty shell? There's nothing inside. They just want your money and they want the good times. And then I started to really define everything, and I call that your GPS to life. So our program, I ask you a million questions, and I ask our clients, because I sit there and go, I've never thought about it. And I'm like, well, if you don't think about that, when will it ever happen? They go, even as a kid, I wanted to be a professional. Maradona was around, so as a soccer player, which wasn't big in Australia. Johnny Warren was someone who was well known. And I went to his camps and I represented New South Wales as a kid in soccer. So my drive was towards that. But in general, that's the only question they'll ask you. They don't ask you, how do you deal with your emotions? What happens in this situation? What about that? What about if it's family? What about if it's friends? If so, why? And when I start asking these questions to people, they're sitting there and tears will roll out. And they're like, you've made me realize that I haven't ever really done work on myself. And I'm like, that's okay. You don't have to, it's good, let it go, let the tears go, but make them tears of realization, make them tears of joy. Where same thing, when I got arrested in 203, I was like, life sucks, F the police and F the world and F everybody else. And, it was all everyone else's fault, but it was the best thing that ever happened to me because at that time, the sum of all of those things, emotional intelligence was starting to come into play. And I was hitting those questions in that cell. And I had these books that I still have. And the questions I asked myself, I look back and go, wow. Like what vision from myself to be able to ask myself, what does the brain do? How does it function? What's it function?
It fascinates me as well. The brain, the
insane, right? Or the gut. Like these two things,
yep.
I say to people, tell me 10 things about the human brain. They go, it makes everything work. And I'm like, okay, and the next one? And they go, I'm just showing you that we haven't put the work into a space that would elevate your life. And as you said, as a female, if I say, hey, Christina, you're beautiful, oh, yeah, and I tell you the right words and intimacy happens that night because you go, this guy's great. And then the next day I ghost you or, you're like, there. And I just told you what you needed here, but you knew the red flags. You'd be like, this guy is one of those guys, right? And you'd be able to go, give me a call tomorrow. And you just go, now I'm going to actually ghost that person because they're coming after me for one thing. Now, once you build yourself well on that level, how much value is that to an individual? It means that you don't have to put out a spot fire. You don't have to feel that you were duped or tricked or, disrespected. And now you feel strong in a position. And that's not just the empowering, that boardroom conversation you had. You can say, hey, we need to have a conversation. That's not how you treat people, and that's not how we have conversations. Let's create a solution in this environment together for the best interest of this environment. What would you see as the best solution? And you're not always going to be the one I've got one business who's got 4 business partners. And sometimes my suggestion isn't the suggestion we all go with. And that's cool.
Yeah,
that's all right.
But you were heard, you felt validated, you can understand other people's perspective. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, sometimes they're right, sometimes you're wrong.
And for the best interest of the environment, so if we want to make more money and create better outcomes, right? Better outcomes first, and the money will come with it. Well, then for the best interest of that environment, that was the best solution. If we were to do, so anyone that knows ads, you do split testing and you do 2 ads. This one gives you 1 million leads. This one gives you none. Well, we're going to go with 1 million leads. And if we all suggested these 4 things and we split tested 4 times and these got 1 million and mine got 0, but I thought mine should be better, well, I've got to drop my pride and ego and say, well, yours clearly got 1 million leads. Let's go with that. And if you can do that at base level, then you're great. You say for the best interest. Yeah, I agree with yourselves. I think that's actually a better name to the business, better outcome to the business, better roadmap to the business. And we'll just go with that. Let's do it.
On the ego thing. See, everything circles with the human behavior, with reading people and understanding, knowing when you need to call something out, but knowing when you can actually just step back and just listen, right? So it's
absolutely.
And you've got all those tools in your coaching program.
Absolutely. One thing I would say really quickly, is learn sometimes no response is a response. Sometimes no is a response. You don't have to justify no. And when I say no, that means that, you know what, I don't need to contribute to this because I actually feel what Christina gave as a solution is unbelievable. And I'd be like, nice work. That's the only contribution that I'd give, like to Christina, and give her nice work or whatever it is in that space. And that's just, for the best interest of the environment. It's not my way, it's our way. And that's it.
And that's, again, creating that culture, creating community. If you're in business, and that's, culture and revenue go hand in hand. And so you don't always have to be the loudest person. And I would say, like, work and even life, it's a jungle, right? You got to know who those alphas are, who the lions are, who the foxes are, who the sheep are. And if you're a sheep and a people pleaser, understanding to cash in. But I do love that, and teaching people that it's not done enough. Like you say, people will come to you and they'll say, I already do this in business, but it's all the tangible. And to be honest, everything they're doing has only got them to where they are today. If you don't learn anything new, you can't get to that next level, people, unless you do physically, tangibly, everything, mentally, spiritually, something different to get your energies, to get everything going. So
listen and learn. Listen and learn.
Yes.
Be willing to listen and learn. And you learn, and then not just listen and learn. Take your pride and ego away and implement at speed, and watch what happens. And at the end of it, you can say, "Hey, Christina, what you told us was bullshit," or "Hey, Christina, has got a profit margin of 16%, and we were making $3 million last year. 16% of $3 million. Well, that's a great increase, right? That we didn't have over the statistical average of the last 10 years. What was the only thing? What you plugged into us, Christina, brought us that outcome. And our staff are a lot happier. We've got those community days where we all get together and go out and do something together, so we know it, the bonding or whatever it is, right? You've built a culture into that unit that wants to operate. And you got to think, I think, at war level. Because if we don't build that culture, and I'm getting shot at over there, and you see where they're shooting from, but you don't give me the signal. Here, look over there. It's from the building top window or whatever it is, and I'm trying to guess where that noise is, but my head's ducked down because they're shooting at me, and I'm looking at you, and you're giving me no signal. Top window. Well, how are we going to get out of that situation? And the craziest thing is, I stick my head up now to try and work it out, and I get my head taken off. And guess what happens? Now you're by yourself, and now they're firing on you, and you get your head taken off. And that's how crazy this, whether it's in any relationship, in any environment, learn to work with each other.
But I guess the thing there is you can rise together. There's enough abundance in the world for wealth. There's enough abundance for the love, for the happiness. Like, you don't have to bring someone down. It's not a seesaw where you have to shoot someone down just so you can elevate yourself, because in fact that's not going to work.
It's insane, but you know and I know it happens in a lot of organisations, and it happens in sport.
It happens too much in organisations, in my opinion. I see it all the time where you got people who are on, let's call it, they get called in the big corporate world, the gravy train, where they're just getting paid so much, and they get so used to putting blinkers on where they are going, oh, that's not my job. But if you open up and what is the best interest for the company goes up, everyone's happier, you're happier at work. If you do that, when you put your blinkers on, it frustrates me. Even in billion-dollar companies, you should care about the few dollars that are getting wasted here and there. But it's a learning with these humans and in everything we do in life.
Oh, I think the biggest thing is every lesson is a blessing in life. But as you spoke about your filters and to the vision of life, aren't there when you're focused on a different thing. I'll give you an example. In sporting clubs, professional sporting clubs, let's say in the NRL, they got 30 players. Of those players, 13 go out onto the field, and then they got 4 reserves. So 17 of those get to play every week. 13 of those get put back into the next division, right? As an example, if they had a period where they didn't even have somewhere to go back to. But a lot of them, some of them don't go back to. They just stay on the training paddock. You've got to still train hard every single day, just like them, in hope that you get picked for those 30. But those 17 are more than likely going to get picked ahead of yourself. So the best thing for me, and I pass on to all of them, is you train harder than everybody else. You do the extras. You do yourself, and you perform when you get down to that lower grade, you be such a standard so high that is the distinct difference between the next division that you demand that respect, and you're just knocking on that door. And soon as someone goes down injured, guess what? Now you're to play in there, and now they've got to come back and try and take you out. And you're playing so good that even if you don't, they say, hey, Jeff's coming back, you're got to go back to the next division down. Somebody from another club says, hey, Joe Bloggs, we recognize how great a player you are, and we feel that we'd like to give you a contract in the top 30 as a starting player. And that's what we've got to be able to do in life. Sometimes you've got to do things, as you know. We do 1,000 things in our business and we get zero return of investment. And then guess what I've got to do tomorrow? Another 1,000 things. And someone still doesn't invest in my business. But if I provide so much value and benefit towards this organization, we just, constantly, hey, Jeff, we've heard great things. We had so many emails yesterday.
Compound.